Hey everybody, let's talk Thornless Blackberries, some simple, straightforward solutions and answers to a bunch of your questions. Stay tuned.
I'm Stace. For me, healthy food and sustainability are totally connected. You can grow it yourself. Nature is generous.
So today, to get into Thornless Blackberries with you, I just want to remind you again, the most beautiful trait of Thornless Blackberries is they're thornless. You can rub them against your face and arms and body and you don't get prickled. So welcome to Thornless Blackberries, one of my favorite crops to produce. They're so simple and so easy. You guys have sent in some great questions from my first Thornless Blackberries video, and I want to cover answers to those questions and just show you a few more little details while we're here. Just a pointer is when you get to trimming away last year's canes that already fruited, obviously a simple set of pruners is great, but you might just need a different tool. If you don't have strong grip or you've got some really big canes, you might need to get into something like that to chop away. Today, while I'm working on the blackberries as well, tying up the smaller canes, I'll be using some green tie wire, and if you've seen this before, it works out really nice. It just spools out like that, and it's even, in this case, got a built-in clipper trimmer so that I can get it to the right length. I can trim it, and I've got a piece, and it goes year after year. I never lose a piece, and that way I've got some pieces that I've used for 10 years for tying up blackberries and for tying up raspberries. So a little bit of trimmer like that. And the other thing I'm looking for, here it is. This product gets used a lot for locking up trees, especially fruit trees in orchards and stuff like that, and I'm going to show you how to use it today on the primary canes. It interlocks so that it can go around something without harming it. So if you haven't seen that product before, tree locking system that's really easy to fasten and unfasten, we're going to use that on tying the major canes to the posts that hold up the trunk of the tree, or the trunk of the blackberry. The key thing to realize here, and this answers one of the questions that I've been asked, is when blackberries are growing, do they grab onto or hold onto what you trellis them to? And the answer is no. They don't have little tendrils or hooks that they can reach out and grab onto like a pole bean or a climbing pea or a kiwi. So they'll grow like this and they'll look just like that, and if you put them next to a post, they might fall off, they might sit on top of it, but with wind or the weight of new fruit or the growth of leaves, they could move where they are very easily. So when you've got a wire or a piece of wood that the Thornless Blackberry is attached to, you're going to have to lash it somehow, some way, with some type of tie to hold it in place. So answer to, do they have tentacles or tendrils to hold on when they climb? They don't. You've got to find a way to lash them or secure them so that they do well, and we'll cover some more answers to questions as we go along. I want to show you from the ground up what I'm doing, so I'm going to move my chair and just let you look right at the base of these blackberries right here. Okay, here I am. So just to be clear, from the ground up, I've cut away with my pruners any old canes that produced fruit last year. These are the canes that grew up last year that did not produce fruit, and so they have the little buds and leaves ready to go, and all the old stuff's cut away. Yes, this is a nettle. I eat nettles a lot, both dry in drinks like teas and also fresh in my morning eggs and such. I cook them up. This beautiful little cross is in memory of a tiny little lamb that passed away in our family, and so I've got nettles growing at a little memorial station right next to this blackberry growth. I've put in a fruit tree stake right here, so these are called 1 to 2 inch pencil posts. They can be 6 to 8 feet tall depending on what type of home supply shop you get them at, so 2 or 3 meters tall, and you can choose how long you want them. I've driven this in next to these 2 stems, or stems coming up from the ground. Underneath here is one drip line. Up above this is my asparagus, below it is my raspberries, and the same drip line does asparagus, blackberry plants, and raspberries. So there's a drip line. I've surrounded this with cardboard, coffee sacks, and fresh trimmings from a chipper that we had run through all of our fruit tree prunings on our property. So it's got about this much depth of coverage of cardboard, coffee sacks, and mulch on top of it, and a drip line underneath there. So now when I stake it up to the stake here, this blackberry's got a lot of things going for it. It's got no weeds fighting against it. It's got healthy soil underneath. The moisture is retained, and because of the insulation on top, there's not going to be a big shift during the day and night of the temperature on the roots, so that's going to really strengthen its growing. So on to question number 2. I get asked this the most about thornless blackberries. How do I fertilize them? I didn't see in your former video about blackberries about how you fertilize them. And the reason is, I don't. They're so productive, so vigorous, so prolific, so healthy on my property where I grow them. I don't use any fertilizer. If you want to, knock yourself out, but of all the crops and items and plants I grow in fruit and veggies, it's the one thing that I never even think about fertilizing. I just make sure that I've looked after the weeds and the moisture at the soil level and covered them over with good mulch, and they rock away. So no, they don't have tendrils or tentacles to climb up to trellis them. You got to stake them. Do they need fertilizer? For me, no. This variety, by the way, is called Triple Crown Thornless Blackberries, and no fertilizer needed for those puppies. Okay. The next thing I want to talk to you about is growing your own blackberries or creating starts that you can share with friends and family from the runners that grow off. And I'm trying to give you a sense of distance. Do you see how long this is? From the little closest to you shoot plant that's growing up, that's actually got roots close to the camera, back to here where the mother trunk is, it's between 5 and 6 meters away. It's almost 20 feet away. And this doesn't have roots anywhere. It grew last season because I just let it grow while a lot of other things were growing here. This bed is ready to go for spring. I'm just waiting for the soil to warm up, so I just have chicken manure and cardboard resting, and my drip irrigation lines are ready to go. But I'm going to come down here to you and show you what we've got right here, because this is going to be the baby that we can gift. So let's look at that for a second. So something that thornless blackberries are incredibly good at doing, guys, is putting down roots. Now, if I wanted to, I could sever this vine back 16 feet or 5 meters from here and grow a new trellis or post here, but I'm not going to. I'm going to snip it here, and once I've snipped it here, I'm going to dig up the plant. So let's just show what that's going to happen. We're going to answer the next question, which is, can I grow thornless blackberries in a container? So first, we're just going to cut this off right here. And now we've got a plant that's rooted up. This can all be cut off, or it could be trellised up. And with a shovel, we can dig that up now. And you can see it doesn't have a huge root system yet. There it is. Okay, it's up out of the ground. And now let's answer the question about containers. I'll just tilt the camera a bit so I can see you better. So can I put a thornless blackberry in a pot and grow it in a container? The answer is yes. The question is really going to be, how big is the container going to be so that you can manage moisture and nutrition to it? I've got 2 plant pots as examples. This one is a bit over a finger span across. It's maybe 20-25 centimeters, 10 inches. I would say that's a bit too little for a patio or a sun deck to put it into. If I was going to be permanently putting my thornless blackberry in a pot, that's too small. This, I believe, is the size of pot that you'd want to start with. You could go bigger, but this is the smallest I would go. And you can see this is 2 hand spans across. It's about 20 inches. That would be what, about 50 centimeters across. I think if you were thinking of imperial measurement, this would be about a 5-gallon, maybe a 20-liter container. That would totally work for a planter. So yes, you could put that. I'm just going to put this in a little pot before I take it to another garden and plant it there for a friend. But no, that won't work long term. Yes, that would. 5-gallon, 20-liter should do it. So yes, you can grow thornless blackberries in pots. They will rock your world there. Now I want to talk to you guys about trellising these beauties. I have shown you in my former blackberries video for thornless blackberries about growing them like statuary or pillars, cutting them off at the height that you would raspberry canes, but that's not what I'm looking at here. I'm looking at trellising them or building structures. So what I do is wherever I have a few canes that have done really great growth from the previous year, I set up what I've done with a nice big post. In this case, I actually used a full-size post that would be considered like 4 or 5 inches thick, so it's like 10 centimeters through. It was over 8 feet, 2.5 meters tall when I started, and I drove it in 2 pounds. It's like a centerpiece because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got 8 canes growing off of it. Up above, I've taken and cut 2x2 support beams going off to smaller posts in different directions, and I've got canes all over the place here. There's going to be 4 different posts coming up, all of them interconnecting with overhead beams, and all of them come from one original plant that has run out shoots laterally and popped up in new places 1 or 2 meters away, like half a span to a full arm span away. Some of the posts, like the first one I showed you, just have 2 stems coming up. This one has 8 stems coming up. And now I'm going to show you how to most easily attach them to the primary vertical post and the horizontal post, that you can see the beautiful things that you can do with them. And the key I want you to realize is I'm doing it right when it's new shoots. There's no flowers and no fruit set, so it's going to be easy to work with them and not damage any potential future fruit. You wouldn't want to do this when it's already flowering and fruiting because you could lose a lot of your production. So let's just get busy with that. But before we do, I will just notice one other thing: the height. I've tried to make it 2 things: not so low that we're bopping our heads on it, not so high that we can't reach it easily. One of my biggest challenges in the past, I either do my trellises too low and I walk into them when I'm cutting the grass or standing up gardening, or they're so high that my younger kids, especially when they were like 7, 8, 9 years of age, couldn't even reach them. But now this is the highest one and it's easy to reach. And so all this fruit's designed so that it's growing so you can walk under it, but easily reach it. So let's get to it and I'll show you how to stake this up a bit. Remember earlier on I showed you this material for tying up trees or fruit trees? That's what we're going to use to put all these 8 different shoots together around one primary post. Now take a look at this. I've got a screw, by the way, that I'm going to put in my mouth. Wrap them all around here. Now they're all gathered. Do you see that? Okay. With one screw into here, if we do this right, and now these lock, right? So I can push this through. The screw's going to hold the weight of the stems, and with this tie down, I can pull it through quite tight, but enough so that they can still grow. And now look at that. I've basically created a cradle around the post that's going to hold them. You could do multiple ones if you needed to, but they're all bunched together now. Can you imagine trying to do that with string or rope or a tie, and then anything that you use that you'd tie around, it could just slide right down. But now with one screw and this locked on, I can secure them, and if I want to, I can loosen it or I can tighten it more. So that's a really nice way to just bundle and grab a whole bunch of them and put them in one place. And I'll just keep working now on this, and then I'll show you what to do up above like I'd mentioned. Okay guys, so this gets really cool, eh? So we have this main post over here on your right. I use that tree anchor material to lock it in. I guided all the vines up, and I used another tree locking one up here, just drilled it in with one screw. This is going to hold the weight. I'd say about a 30-40 pound person could do chin-ups on here, like a 20-kilo human. This will be no problem holding up the vines and the weight. Love this beautiful light I'm in, right? And then as the vines get a little lighter, I use some of the green tie-down material right there. And then when I get to the end of the vine right here, what I'm trying to do is stimulate some growth at the tip, so I'm always going to cut them right there wherever they end, so that it basically pushes energy back to the roots. So how beautiful, I just cut off the tips just like that, right? So now we've got about another meter, meter and a half for them to grow. Another 4 feet they can grow that way. And it's supported, and I can walk under it, but I can easily reach it to pick it. So it's quite beautiful. And that brings us to answering the last question that a lot of people have asked me lately. And it's a really simple answer. I hope it makes you happy. The question is, how do you keep the birds off? Or what do you do about the birds? And my answer is, I grow a lot and I share. You can't really protect that type of a vine from the birds, and yes, birds do love them, but I will say this, birds are opportunistic, and if they can stand on top of here and pick away at a berry or two, they absolutely will. But there will be so many berries hanging and clustered in between all the vines that most of the berries don't get damaged or eaten by the birds, and yes, I share. And hey, if you're going to grow 1 or 2 vines for yourself and now you're concerned about the birds, grow 3 or 4 vines and just share. It'll work out okay. And in fact, if you do that, they'll probably leave your blueberries and your raspberries and other things alone, because it is easy pickings. But man, easy pickings, you'll get so much more poundage or weight of thornless blackberries off anything you grow against any other berry. It's amazing. It competes more like with an orchard tree harvesting apples or plums than other berries, because it's just so prolific. It's amazing. Guys, thanks a lot for coming along for the ride on this action-packed video about thornless blackberries, the second one that I've done so far. We've covered a lot of ground and shown you from the ground up how to care for the blackberries, get rid of last year's fruiting canes, and nurture the ones that grew up last year that are going to fruit and flower this year. We've shown you about trellising and structuring and answered a bunch of questions. Do you need fertilizer? No. Can you grow it in a container? Absolutely. Just get the right size container. What about the birds? Well, feel free to share and just grow a little bit more than you were planning. And tentacles, tendrils, do they have anything to cling with? No, they don't. So you're going to have to provide some attachment for those vines coming off your thornless blackberries. They're so fun to grow. Enjoy. And if you've been watching this video on YouTube, please subscribe so that you'll get more hopeful, helpful, healthy tips from Sustainable Stace. Thanks a lot, guys.